Welcome to Digication Scholars Conversations. I'm your host, Jeff Yan. In this episode, you will hear part one of my conversation with Lizz Colon, Director of Learning in Public at College Unbound. More links and information about today's conversation can be found on Digication's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Full episodes of Digication Scholars Conversations can be found on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Welcome to Digication Scholars Conversations. I'm your host, Jeff Yan. My guest today is Lizz Colon, Director of Learning in Public at College Unbound. Hi, Liz.
Hi, how
Welcome.
are you?
Good. I have been a massive fan of College Unbound for a very long time, since its inception. I have been friends with your current president, Adam Bush, for over a decade when he co-founded College Unbound with Dennis Lidke, whom I've also admired for another decade before that. In fact, Adam Bush was a Digication Scholars back in season 1, episode 25 and 26. So people should check that out if this story, resonates with you. So Liz, why don't you tell us a little bit about College Unbound for those who may not be aware of what it is and how is it different from other colleges, and the fact that it's a college, it's a degree granting college, and some people don't even know about that, right? So go ahead and tell us a little bit about College Unbound.
So, College Unbound started about 15 years ago. In 2020, we actually got our accreditation through NECHE, and they're the consortium that accreditates all New England colleges. We have been able to build a rigorous program, which is a bit untraditional. We're not like other colleges in a way that, it is here's a book, read the information, take a test, and move on. We really have a commitment to our students who have had a lot of educational trauma in a lot of different ways. Being lack of schools or overcrowded schools, thinking about the level of diversity, poverty, all of those things that we look at. Um, we are the college that really serves people um, who are not going to do that mainstream traditional path. And so we have created a process to embrace the fact that as an adult, you can go to college, you can handle a full-time um, level of full-time courses. You can work full-time, you can raise your family. And believe it or not, with all of that in the mix, you can still have time for self-care, right? And it is so important. So we've been able to create and model this program into a way where we really care deeply about our community. And because we're passionate about our community, there are 3 ways that students go through College Unbound. One, each student has to have a project, and it's a project that they care about. It's a project that can be, as large as this 5-year scale project. It can be a fundraiser. It really could be anything um, that you are passionate and that you care about. And with that comes community impact. So we do a lot of asset mapping. We do a lot of working with the students to figure out what is your plan, what is your goal, what are your passions, how would you impact this community. What are the different types of steps that you would take to be able to do this, or if you were to build a business or create a nonprofit? And these are all things that we want and we get from people who are um, coming back into college that have been either out for a very long time or never had the opportunity before. A couple of ways that we do this is one, College Unbound is takes any type of credit you might have from a previous institution. So it could have been military credit, it could have been credit through credentialing services like ACE, it could be that you have, you went to college years ago, and that college, your transfer credit will come in. And so people are coming in multiple different ways. And so everybody starts the same type of process. Although, no matter how much credit you come in with, you still have to do. The first semester is the only semester we kind of dictate. And the reason for that is because we want to be able to set people up with the right supports, that everybody is starting at the same foundation. Even though you might come in with different credits and you might come in with different skills, this really sets you up because we do things in a different way. It's not about just, reading, taking a test and moving on. It is really sitting with and learning about how we process reflective learning. And so, because of that, you really have to sit in the mix with this. It's not just an easy one, two, three um, way of doing things. It's a little unique. We have this really we call it the secret sauce. Can't tell you exactly what it is, because I think there are pieces throughout and sprinkled throughout the whole college to make this community what it is. But it's a place of belonging. It's a place of caring. It's a place of learning, and we really embrace the fact that we are all lifelong learners. And so this isn't something that, you're just going to school for, you move on, and you never think of again. But how do you continue to learn throughout your lifetime, as, in a community? Um, my title is the director of learning in public. And so when we think about learning in public, usually people don't like, oh, what is that? But we learn through lots of different things. We learn through thinking about the ways that we've been able to think about our healthcare system. We learn through the ways of working with libraries and working with people. Um, we learn inside and outside of the classroom. But why does it only count when it's inside the classroom? And so we all have these lived experiences that are very unique. And there's a lot of value and there's a lot of worth to that. And I think that we don't honor people enough in those different ways to be like, wow, you really did that. Like, that's amazing. Um, and so it's a really a way for people to find their voice, to people to find the ways that they really wanna be in community with other people, and, there's just so much that you get and that you take away from College Unbound. As a student coming in, I enrolled in College Unbound in 2019, and, I had, dropped out of high school in the ninth grade, got my GED, went to community college for a little while, got about 20 credits, and then for the following 25 years, worked as a community organizer doing all types of environmental and social justice work, and public policy. And when I came to College Unbound, my first thing was is like, you told me I got lived experience and I could be able to use that. And I was able to use that. I was able to help create a program and a structure. That's the program that I now oversee, to figure out the ways to um, look at that lived experience, do a comprehensive portfolio assessment on what was learned, and then be able to bestow credit to students. Um, it has been quite a journey for me. I fell in love for the first time as an adult at College Unbound. I didn't really ever think that education was in my wheelhouse. It just wasn't something that I was good at. I was a C and D student. I barely passed. I really struggled in school. And the first time I came to College Unbound and I got an A, I was like, oh my gosh, I can do college level work. And I was like surprised myself. Um, and then I realized, no, this is something I can do. It was, I think, the learning pieces and the way that we're able to model and the way that we're able to engage in the community, which really helped me foster my learning, because there was a reason I wanted to learn and there was something behind it. It wasn't this arbitrary go do a portfolio on elephants. And what if I don't like elephants? And why do I have to do it? I'm not going to get a good grade, you know? Um, but because it's really based on your values and what you think and what you want, and the student is in the driver's seat, um, it's been an unbelievable journey.
I I think you're being very modest, by the way. I've known a little bit about your journey, so we're gonna dig deeper.
Okay, you could do that.
Right. But I also want to just really quickly comment on a couple of things. I think it's important to acknowledge that the the sort of, you know, expected paths that people have for children going from K-12 school and then to college, spend a few years in college, and then they go and get a job, maybe go even get graduate degrees, and then get a job, um, build a family, and then at some point retire. This kind of, picket fence, sort of dreamy sort of, paths, they exist for some people, but
Yeah.
I think it doesn't exist for millions of people. I don't think that people realize, like, oh, that's just the minority that it doesn't work for. It's not true. I mean, even if it is true, minority in for millions and there are still millions and millions of them, right? So it's a very large number of people that it doesn't work for, and it has to do with a little bit of that. What you were saying, look, I don't see a reason for building a portfolio on elephants, right? Or to read a book about something that you just didn't feel the connection for, especially when your life priorities have other things going on. Maybe
Mhm,
someone's sick in the family. Maybe you are
mhm,
responsible for taking care of your children
mhm.
while being there. And if in comparison, I get to spend time with my children, or I can go to this class, except that this class is making me do things that I'm not all that passionate about. Man, that's hard day in and day out. How could they spend years doing that and complete that degree? Right?
I think we look at, not in any way to knock community colleges, but it just the way that they're structured. When you go and you apply to go to any school, there's certain times, there's certain classes, there's the maximum class size, you have these other things that come into play. And if you're a working parent, right, whether you're a single parent or not, um if you're a parent or you're working 40 hours and your kids are in school and plus you're in school, there needs to be a way to be able to find that balance. And for a lot of colleges, because it really is catered to those 18 to 25-year-olds, right, who can work at night and do these things, right? But when you've got a family and you've got little ones, that just doesn't always work out, especially if you're a single parent household. And it's a trade-off. It's, do I work to put food on my table, or can I possibly take a class? Like, and I don't really have the time to invest in that. And so I think College Unbound is unique in the way that we only have to we only ask students to show up in person once a week for 3 hours. And during that time of those 3 hours, we also build our community by breaking bread together and having a communal meal, right? We
That's amazing.
offer childcare, on site so that, students can either come with their cohort on either Tuesdays or Wednesdays. But even if you're a Tuesday student, you can come to school on Wednesday and have your child in childcare while you're doing homework in you know what I mean, in
That's
another
awesome.
area of the building. So, like, there's still that availability because if you've got kids and you've got homework to do, it's not always that easy. Um, the way that we also structured it, in regards to the childcare portion is that, um, the students who are coming who are kids, they get their homework done, and that's the first thing they have to do, and so there's homework help, so that parents are not necessarily spending the time on that night because they have their own classes to do. And it really is nice to see the mix of generations that come into the building. We've got husbands and wives that are coming to school together. We've got partners. We've got best friends. We have um, a mother, a daughter, and a granddaughter all attending class together,
Three
right?
generations. Yep.
And it really is. So it's not just it's first and second generation, sometimes third gen that we're seeing. And it's a great model for the kids to even come into the school building and say, "All right, mom or dad has got to go to class, and you're going to go to class, and you're going to do this, and you're going to have some fun stuff and arts and crafts and whatever after your homework. And by the way, we're also going to provide your meal." So people are not just driving from, their job to pick up their kid to get some fast food, right? We also make sure that we have healthy meals for people. And it's great. Like I will go in and there's students that come in the building and they're like, "Oh, the traffic was horrible." And I'm like, "Sit down. What do you want? I'll grab you a plate. Let me bring you some water." And students will look at me and they're like, "Seriously, you're doing this?" And I'm like, "Why not? I'm already here." Um, but it's a way just to even to appreciate them for making the effort to come. And then those other days of the week, well, they're not in that cohort class, other classes they take are on Zoom, so that there is flexibility around, being able, like I said, to be able to work, to be able to maintain a family, to be able to maintain your self-care, right? You don't wanna just run out of time and say, "I have no time for me because all I can do is work and study."
Right. And this, I think, is also, by the way, what an amazing thing to have a brand new college where you can invent these new ways of just and think about the spending the finances part of it, right? Like some people might go, well, what does it cost 100K a year to attend a school where you provide free childcare? No, but because it's 2 days, you are able to limit it in those 3 hours. You're able to do that and provide them with food. And guess what? You also then not spending money on a gym and on the swimming pool, the other extravagant things that some college campuses have, right? And you are able to balance that out with on things that really are going to serve this population of students better.
And also students every 8 weeks, there's an exhibition. So students have to show their work, and they have to talk about, and there's different ways that we model that, and we have assignments, so that people can have their exhibitions. But how great is it to be able to present and then have your kid give you feedback? Right? Or you bring in your family or your friends or your coworkers so they can see what you're doing. Um, and they can see like, yeah, just because I'm in school, I'm not just sitting in a classroom like listening to, blah, blah, blah. Like this is really hands-on education. And because of that, it feels different. It feels like a place that you want to come to, right? And it's going down that path of having, I think, thinking about the ways that we have, like a lot of adults have been traumatized in education, right? They're scared of that red pen in the way that we just say, "Oh, this isn't good enough." Um, but that's not it. And I think College Unbound is very unique in the fact that because we're not um, extremely traditional and we haven't been institutionalized with a 100-year history, right? We can come in and we can say, what works for us and what's happening in real life right now, and how can we structure and make these adjustments so we don't end up like that place, right? Because we want people to feel like they have control and that they are at the center of attention. And I think one of the ways that we also do that is because we also have one bachelor's degree. And so that one bachelor's degree, which is in organizational leadership and change, um, is a great way to go. One, you're not on a specific track where you have to stay in this lane. Organizational leadership and change, it can ebb and flow, and it's in management, and you can use it for profit, you can use it in a nonprofit, you can use it as, a startup, as an entrepreneurship. There are so many ways, and the degree is so versatile that you have opportunity to be able to say, "This is where I can think I can fit in this type of field," and you're not being held to a very, like, linear standard of, "You can only do this in this track."
Right. Now, I said before that we need to dig into some of what you've done as well, because it's an amazingly impressive work that you've done. And for some, and I want people to hear this partly also because for someone as brilliant as you are, Liz, you had, like you said, education trauma in such that 29 years after you attended school, you get an A and you surprise yourself.
Mm,
But if we look at your 29 years of that career, which we're going to go into, right? I think everyone's going to be like, wow, she's impressive. How could she be scared of not getting an A? She's clearly an A material, right? But I think we forget that students, when they are young, when they go through schools, these grades, these feedback that they get, it matters to these little brains. They have
mhm,
nothing, they have no way to defend themselves but by saying negative things to themselves, to think that they are less than capable, right?
mhm,
Because someone said so.
mhm,
And it's so easy to give someone a C and a D. Like you said, I'm a C and a D student, right? It's so easy for them to fall into that and then think less of themselves. And that education trauma is real. And I think it's the kind of things that most college, have admissions, you know, and it further perpetuate that feeling and that idea that you don't belong. So when you said that we do these projects and it's based on belonging and care, purpose and the mission gets built and confidence get built, guess what? People are more successful. And you'd wonder why, right? You wonder why these people are like you are saying, I found my place. Well, no kidding, right? Because you were traumatized,
mhm,
you were young, and you had no way to fight it. You
mhm.
had to do it, right? You were just told, and you didn't have a way to defend yourself, and you didn't fit into that mold. And so I think it's really, I mean, it's an incredibly amazing message, not only for people who are interested in College Unbound, but if you're listening, you are in a K-12 school, you are in a college, a more traditional college. Think about these things, and how we continue that system with our students and what that means for them.
As a student, my glass ceiling was, I wanna get my bachelor's degree. That was all I wanted. I was like, "If I'm gonna get my bachelor's degree, I've done all these things in my life, and that's all I want." And then I got really close to graduation at College Unbound, and I was in my capstone class, and I was like, "But what do I do? I don't wanna leave. How do I stay? Like, can I take some more classes? I know I'm supposed to graduate," but I had this sense of, like, if I walk away, now what? And that was kinda scary because all of a sudden, I went from, you know, just kind of working, but then I went into this being of community that was very much of belonging, and I was like, I like these people. These are my people. I wanna stay." And I didn't wanna graduate, and I was scared to graduate because I was like, "What happens next? Now what?" And so 2 things happened. 1, I fell in love with education for the first time in my life during this process. And so I decided that I had enough confidence and I enrolled in Roger Williams University and I went to took me another 15 months, but I got my master's degree in community development and it was a great experience and I ended up with a 4.0 and it was
Congratulations.
something that that I had never had. I mean, that would happen when I was in College Unbound. I'm in my mid-40s at this point,
Mhm.
right? Going, "I got an A for the first time. What?" you think I could actually handle a master's degree program? I don't know. And I did it, and I was like, "Wow, I did it, and I rocked it." And it was really, really cool to have that feeling of, like, it wasn't just me that couldn't learn. Like, there was something else in those pieces. And instead of, blaming myself, it was like, "Well, now I understand why education is, like, you need to be invested in it, and you need to want it." Um
Right.
and if you didn't have those happy stories, or you're able to kind of get over that hump and be like, I did a good job on this particular thing, and it's always, you didn't do good enough. You should have get a C. Why aren't you getting A's? There's always, red pen all over my paper because I didn't do this right and I didn't meet your specifications as a teacher. Um, and that really was, I think, had my issues with my lack of confidence for years. That's how it was downplayed. And it was like, even working in a nonprofit, I remember my executive director going, "Oh, well, maybe you should take a writing course, and maybe you should do this." And I'm like, no, I'm just me. um,
So, so let's tell us a little bit after you had had a 20 credits from a community college. You was it around that time where you started to venture out to do other things and tell us about that because I think that's an amazing story. What you then
yeah. So, I came to College Unbound, and it was my third weekend, and I was told upon, doing the recruitment process and coming in that, you can get up to, a bunch of credits for your lived experience. And so I brought in a WB Mason box and had it filled with some stuff, and brought it to the provost and put it on her desk and said, "You said I could get learned experience from stuff. This is some of the stuff I've done." I worked for the Center for Disease Control. I was on the scientific board of counselors. I had, done some work on Sesame Street and was able to, be an advisor on one of the segments for their content, for lead poisoning prevention. I, had traveled all over the US. I was a keynote speaker at many, many conferences. Um, I had just done a lot of types.
this is Liz before
This is
getting
Liz before Liz went to college.
yeah right
Did all of this without college. I was a
right.
lobbyist for about 5 years. I worked on, significant housing legislation, in the state of Rhode Island. I was able to work with, the EPA on their renovation and remodeling program. I was an industrial hygienist for the Rhode Island Department of Health, where I used to do lead inspections and radon and asbestos. There were a lot of different things that I've done
And
in
even
my
all of
life,
this, you didn't think you were going to get an A if you go to your
but
first
I had
college.
never gotten an A.
Yeah.
I had
You-
written grants. I've worked, on boards, through different types of boards and committees and commissions, and you name it, for years during my 29-year career. And um, yet I was extremely intimidated and paranoid to go to school as an adult. And at the same time as I enrolled as an adult, one of my sons, um, was also entering college, but, he was 17, 18 at the time, and, a very different college. He lived on campus, and he did that whole college dorm thing. And here I am going, I'm in my mid-40s, I'm going to my first day of class. I don't know what to expect. Um, I don't know if I can even pull this off. Like, am I really doing the right thing? And so it was also really interesting because during that time, it was also during the pandemic, and so I got to see, like, these nuances of, like, college and traditional life through my son's experiences. And at the same time, I was all in, you know, um, full, course load, and trying to do probably a lot more than I should. Um, but it was so new to me, and I couldn't get enough.
Mhm.
And then so when I graduated College Unbound, I didn't wanna leave. And so one of the things I did was ask, I was like, "Can I get hired? Can I work for you? Like, I am totally transformed. This school changed the trajectory of my life." It literally did that. Um and so what are the next steps? How do I stay connected? And so I became a teacher's assistant and an alumni mentor, and I started helping out in other cohorts. And then I started working as recruitment associate because I totally believed in the program and it worked for me. I wanted everybody to have the great experiences that I had. And so it was an easy thing to do. It felt like an easy, I didn't have to sell something to somebody, right? I just had to tell them, like, and share the journey of education and what you could get out of it. And that was a really big deal for me in that role because I wanted everybody to have the great experience that I had. And once I was able to do that, and then after that, got my master's degree. Then I kind of moved up. The provost, who I had brought my big box to in that initial 3 weeks, was leaving, and I was asked to take over her position. And so that's how I became the director of learning in public. Um, Knowing that for the last 4 years that we have operated for learning in public, which is our version of CPL, so credit for prior learning, or prior learning assessments are done throughout, institutions all over the US. Um, but we decided not to use those names because it's not just what you've done prior, and it's not just the things um, that you've done in your past, but it's also what are you doing now and what are you looking to do in the future? And that's why we have come up with the name of Learning in Public because it really is, right? You can learn anywhere. You can learn through your home. You can learn online, right? You can learn in school. You can learn at the doctor's office, right? You can learn in the library.
Here's a preview of what's coming up next in part 2 of my conversation with Lizz Colon, Director of Learning in Public at College Unbound.
But really embracing the points of reflective learning, I think, is really one of the biggest pieces, and that's really the key to what we think of when we have like a non-traditional educational system like College Unbound.